How has October been for you?
October's been kind of okay. We've done a few deals and we've had a few clients over here. It's not been spectacular by any means, and we haven't had the volume of clients that we would normally have. But again, similar to months earlier in the year, the people that have managed to get over here or have been here, however they've got here, have been serious. So they've been a good quality client. So it means that when we do get the clients on the ground here at the moment, we tend to find that it's worth our time and worth our investment because they tend to be either further down the sales process in terms of having done their research, or they tend to be keener to buy, whether that's because of what's happening in the world and they just feel that it's time to make a decision and crack on. I mean, we even have people who've kind of escaped their home countries just to be here, you know, just to quarantine here rather than back in, say, Belgium or Ireland or Germany. So we are seeing live human beings, and you know, we are getting clients, but it's just a much lower volume than we would normally deal with, which is kind of weird because it, you know, for instance, me, I mean, I have a sales team. It's not a big team, but it means that I'm not out there doing as much kind of work as I feel I should. So I'm feeling a little bit guilty that I've got a bit of spare time on my hands. But hey, hopefully it'll all sort itself out sooner rather than later.
So do you have any views on what the rest of the quarter has in store for us? More of the same, or do you think there's going to be a shift?
The problem we're going to have is obviously the final quarter of the year isn't a normal quarter because we have the looming spectre of Christmas, which tends to dominate everyone's thoughts in any business from kind of the second week of the month of December. So unfortunately, November, which is normally quite a strong month, looks like it's going to be a little bit of a washout this year because of the increased restrictions that governments are putting in place across pretty much the whole of Europe. And I think a lot of people are already kind of writing off November, which means that we're going to have a really small window of opportunity to get some deals done in December. We might just have a couple of weeks. And of course, the temptation from most people will be, well, do you know what? Rather than just trying to rush everything in December, and then we've got Christmas, and we're just going to do it in January. Oh, and then, you know, the first 2 weeks of January is taken up with celebrating New Year and getting the kids back to school and getting back to work. And all of a sudden you're into February. So yeah, I don't see the outlook as being particularly heartening. But you know, as I said before on this forum, we've kind of altered a few things in our business. We've reduced our cost base to make us a leaner, fitter machine. It means that we can respond quickly to market conditions and changes. And we're okay to kind of see this out. You know, it's not going to affect us too badly, particularly if we keep picking up the odd stray client here and there. But hopefully, you know, I know I keep saying this, but hopefully if we get to a point where somebody says, okay, February the 1st, the taps are back on and people can fly and people can travel and, oh, we've got a vaccine, then I would take that deal right now.
Right. I gotcha. So it's the uncertainty that's unsettling more than the actual delay of any return to normality.
I think it's like anything in life, isn't it? You know, people can deal with bad news. People can, you know, someone said to me, look, guys, it's going to be another 6 months. Then we'd all be like, oh my God. But we deal with it. You know, we'd plan our business accordingly, and we'd make the various shifts that we would need to make. But at least we would be prepared. And I'm not saying everyone would survive in that situation. Of course they wouldn't. You know, there will be people who are going to run out of cash 6 months down the line and won't be able to keep a viable business going, which is a shame. But there will be others who will want to take advantage of, you know, the reset, you know, the restart, project restart, whatever you want to call it, and take advantage of there being fewer competitors in the market.
I see. And what question I had for you is, in the UK, there are lots of reports of the real estate market positively booming. Similarly in the States, you know, to even pre-COVID levels and even better than before that. I think the UK, the mortgages approved in September are the best ones since 2007 in terms of volume. They also have COVID. There are also some level of travel restrictions. So what do you think the big difference is with here? and with
I think the
us?
main difference, yeah, I think the main difference is that in places like the UK, the States, you're dealing with predominantly a primary residential market. So it's people who are moving for their own homes. And obviously what's prompted a lot of those moves, say in the UK, is that people are thinking, oh, if I'm going to be working from home, I'm not going to be commuting, maybe I need a little bit more space, maybe I don't want to be in a city centre, I'd rather be in a little village on the outskirts, my office is moving. So I think that's prompted a chain of interest that has obviously led to volume and sales. I also think in the UK there's been an influx of money from the Far East again. I know for a fact that a lot of people in China are looking to get their money out. So from an investment property perspective, places like Birmingham, Liverpool, Manchester have seen a spike of investment again, not so much in London, but certainly in the regions. So that the difference is that here, obviously on the Costa del Sol and other areas of southern Spain, the market that we deal in is really a second home market. It's a discretionary purchase. People who are looking to buy here already have a perfectly adequate home wherever they are, and what they're really looking to do is to purchase a luxury item. And of course, it doesn't take much to just knock that off kilter. So it can be a pandemic, it can be a recession, it can be an exchange rate movement, it can be granny's in a nursing home, it can be the kids are moving school, it can be anything, because they don't actually need this property on the Costa del Sol. They'd all like one. So that's what we're seeing at the moment, is that it's kind of dropped down the list of priorities, which is completely understandable. And that's what we're seeing really. So it is a different market to a UK and US kind of normal residential market. This is a second home market, which is driven by discretionary factors really.
Earlier today, you gave me a link to an article on the Financial Times, quoting a who's who of the Marbella real estate industry.
And I wasn't in there.
You wasn't in there. Yeah, you weren't in there. But mainly it was people involved with developments, wasn't it? Well,
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But the point that the article on the FT was making was that the rich-poor divide in terms of the market is much more significant now than it has been. And by that, I mean, not so much in rich, poor people having means or not having means, but it seems that the upper end of the market is sailing along as it does, because it's never really been a volume market anyway. And people of means still have means. But the mid to lower element of the market seems to be the most impacted. That's what the argument the article was making. Is that something that you're seeing too?
I tend to believe it. We probably, and I don't think any agent can categorically, accept or deny it really, because we probably haven't got the volume to crunch the numbers. But what I would say is that, gut feeling and also the evidence that we're seeing, however limited that might be in terms of volume, the evidence that we're seeing is that is the case. The aspirational, what I call the aspirational sector in the market, which tends to be the lower to mid-level, people who are generally employed, who are looking at this as a luxury purchase, who will probably need a mortgage, so they're not going to be ploughing in their whole life savings, but a significant chunk of it. They're the ones that are going, oh, hang on a minute, this is a really big decision. Are we doing the right thing? We need to hang on to our cash because of what may be around the corner. They may be worried about their job security. So that market we are noticing as being hit. There's a lack of those types of buyers. And I think I mentioned last time around, our average sale has gone up, and not really by design. I mean, we do aim obviously, at different sectors of the market, but I think this time last year, our average sale was around 500, 600,000 euros. So far this year, it's over 1 million. So that says to me that the people who are buying and also the people who are visiting are the ones who have the means to get here. They don't have to worry maybe too much about reporting for duty on a Monday morning to the big bad boss. They are the big bad boss. And I think that also, you're right. They tend to have the financial means as well. So, I mean, for instance, we had a guy who over the last 2 weekends has flown down twice to see us on his private jet. He's been a pilot, and he's just flown out and done the business. Joe Public, me and you, we don't have a private jet parked around the corner, and we aren't able to do that. And, perhaps we have other things to worry about and think about. So, I think, are we heading for one of those things where the rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer. I don't think it's as simple as that, but I do think that men of means and women of means who have, who want a holiday home in Spain or a second home or a permanent residence in Spain may look at this as an opportunity to get a good price. While other people can't get here, while vendors don't have a pool of buyers to appeal to, if they can get here and negotiate a good price, then why not?
And in previous times that we've spoken, there was the big debate that goes on and on about the expectation of price drops by buyers expecting to catch bargains. And then, I mean, there's certainly some evidence at the moment that some of the big investment funds are keen to grab a bargain in Spain, particularly in Madrid and Barcelona. Given that the extended period that this seems to be just dragging on for a bit longer than any of us had really hoped, and dragging on in a way that's quite uncertain, is not following a very clear path. Do you still think that the prices will hold, relatively speaking, to like sub 10%, with the majority of them being resales?
That's what we're seeing, really. Yeah, I mean, I noticed from the FT article, it was a really interesting read, because what they were saying that year on year, the prices were up on the Costa del Sol, or certainly in Marbella. I think you have to look at, there's markets within markets, but generally speaking, prices were actually up. I think, was it 6% or something like that? But what we're seeing, again, from an evidence point of view, is that there are some price corrections, and much needed and much welcome, because I think prices were overinflated in certain areas and in certain types of stock. So, but again, it's not, we're not seeing huge like 30% discounts and things like that. As you said, Alfredo, it's like kind of up to 10%. Developers aren't discounting as much as I expected them to, which means or says to me that they've either refinanced or they're happy with their year's work to date to rumble through into next year. Whether we see any kind of last minute discounting towards the end of the year, I doubt it, because they should be discounting now if they really mean business. Yeah. If a developer's in serious trouble and needs to shed its stock, then it should be offering 20-30% fire sale just to close the year out. We're not seeing any evidence of that at all. So it says to me that the banks are kind of quite happy to let this roll a little bit. Whoever's funding these developers are quite happy to let it roll. I'm not saying it will roll on forever, because obviously everyone needs money. But I think that, again, the industry and a lot of vendors are looking at this as a temporary thing. You're right what you say. The pause has gone on maybe longer than we thought. I thought we'd probably be out of this based on no reason whatsoever, but I thought we'd kind of be out of this by October. We're not. It looks like we're going to have a little mini lockdown again, and we're all going to be sitting at home for a couple of weeks. And I expect that it will now coincide, any kind of recovery and uptick and getting people back here will coincide with the airlines being able to fly, the skies opening up, and obviously some sort of solution to this problem in terms of a fix. And when that happens, I mean, they're talking about the turn of the year, being able to have vaccines approved and things like that. I think that, and testing, short-term testing so people can travel, that's going to make a huge difference. And I think that will then restore confidence to vendors, to developers, when they start seeing a flow of people. Because we've already seen it in July and August this year. We had that little, what I call a mini break, where we had clients actually able to get here. And we had about sort of 3 weeks in July and 1 week in August where people were coming to us. And it was great, because we had a lot of pent-up demand that came over here and started buying, and they've done their research. They spent so much time at home, they kind of knew more than we did, and they came over and bought, and our conversion rates were sky high, loads of inquiries, loads of visits, loads of sales. And I think we're going to see that again, early doors next year, when people again are allowed to travel and kind of get back to normal. So I think people are just kind of thinking this isn't a long-term, as in like 3-4 year recession kind of model. We do expect the market to pick up. Banks are still lending, inquiries are still coming in, as you know, you're the guru for that. But what we're noticing is people aren't panic selling. So we haven't got a load of new instructions coming onto the market dragging the prices down. So it's just kind of pause, the odd price correction, the odd little bargain here and there, but nothing spectacular.
Right. Gotcha. You think that the horrible phrase, the new normal, perhaps it's a little different to the way we thought it would be? Maybe the meaning is slightly different, in that buyers are becoming a little bit, or are in the process of becoming a little bit phased with the the scare elements of all of this and getting a little bit accustomed to it. And as soon as there are some travel corridors with the quick testing, I think maybe do you think that in the first quarter, maybe we might see a little bit of the start-stop sort of thing where they come in waves? I don't. It seems to me that the feeling, the fear factor, even though the figures are pretty scary, the fear factor seems to have gone a little bit away from people, and it's more. It is the new normal in a sense, and so therefore no different to in the first few weeks, everybody rushing out to buy loads of bread for some reason. The behavior now is much more calm and collected, and I think perhaps that will come across in real estate as well, because really, if you got to spend time indoors, you got to spend time indoors, and the only thing stopping you doing it in Spain, if you have the money to make that investment, is the physical ability to be there. And in many cases, with work at home, 14 days quarantine, if that continued, say in the UK, it's not actually the end of the world really for a lot of people. It just means that they can't get into the office for a couple of weeks.
That's the thing. I mean, let's look at the facts. Most people who can afford to buy a property here in Marbella are not losing their jobs. Of course, some are, and it's tragic. But most people are getting paid, whether it's by the government or their employer. They're getting something. Their costs are probably down because they haven't got travel costs, they haven't got childcare costs. So actually, they're probably as well off as they were, or they can manage. It's not like everyone's out of work. Okay, there are a lot of job losses. I'm not going to get political about it, but certainly the kind of client that is looking to buy here is probably not as affected as other people. And I would say that the people we speak to, and I've checked with my team on this, probably 90% of the clients that we speak to who are looking to make a purchase here are pretty philosophical about it. Yeah, they want to get the best price possible, but they accept that this isn't similar to the 2008 problem that we had, which was a global recession caused by a lack of liquidity. This is something altogether different. And those people are planning to come over, they're planning to buy, they want us to negotiate hard for them, but they know they're not going to get 30, 40, 50% off. And then we've got 10% of our interested people, and I have to say most of them are Brits who just think this is kind of the end of the world, and they're coming in with like 30%, 40%, 50% offers, thinking they're going to get them away. And we're like, no, that isn't happening. It may well happen. I don't know. No one's got a crystal ball. I can't see it happening. It might have happened 2009, 2010, but it's not happening now. So you're wasting your time. And we're quite
2008, I think the figure was a 32% price drop, wasn't it? And that was a property bubble with a localized property bubble that we were going to have anyway over here.
Yeah,
and becoming part of a global recession, like a perfect storm of problems. It's a very different situation, as everybody keeps on saying. I mean, there could be a knock on of the recessions from this and so on and so forth, but it isn't a property related thing. If anything, some of the uncertainty in the markets might push more money towards property. Yeah,
exactly. But it's really interesting that it's the British people who are the ones that are, I was going to say something quite rude then, but they're the ones who are kind of pushing that agenda of, well, here's my 200,000 euros. If that's not good enough, tell them to do one. And we're like, well, there's no point in asking because they're not going to take it, mate. Because somebody else is prepared to pay another 100,000 than you. So but you're always going to get that type of person who thinks the world is about to end. But if it's about to end, why are you buying a property in Spain?
That's a great. Well, it's not going to end, obviously. Well, that's a great way to finish, I think. So the idea is stay ready at all times, keep your costs low, and be ready to jump when we get the little waves of buyers coming over.
I think so. I mean, look, let's face it, and I'm sure you'll back me up on this. This is a wonderful place to be. I pinch myself. At the moment, we have the most glorious weather. It's 20 degrees. It's clear blue skies. The sun is shining. The med looks amazing. The colors are fantastic. And I think a lot of people want to be here. When you look on the news at what's happening in the countries in Northern Europe, and oh my God, I speak to family, I speak to friends there, and everyone's just generally fed up with the whole thing. And I think if you're going to be fed up, well, be fed up in the sun, So
yeah. And if you're going to be locked up, if you are going to be confined and unable to go out, I think I'd rather be here than in Oldham or Rochdale or somewhere. No disrespect.
And I think with when the world does become smaller again and we are able to connect a little better with everyone and fly to places, then I think the way that businesses are now setting themselves up, then I think employees are going to have a lot more flexibility in terms of where they work, how they work, who's watching over them. And a lot of clients that we're speaking to are already kind of planning for that future and saying, look, the way we want to do this is we want to maybe downsize in the UK or in Belgium or in France, and then we want to have a place in Spain. We just want to spend maybe 3 weeks a month in Spain and just enjoy that lifestyle and that weather.
I mean, for a lot of normal people, by normal people, I mean you and I, the dream of being able to spend X amount of months a year somewhere nice and do a little bit of remote work, and that was a little bit unachievable unless you were maybe a computer programmer or something like that, or a CEO with international business. That's now everybody's, well, not everybody's reach, but a lot of people's reach now, isn't it? You know, it's. I think most office locations are accepting that they're not likely to return to full-time staff in an office, but maybe a combination of the two, and that's enough for a lot of people, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that companies, even big companies, are completely re-looking at the whole compensation angle for employees and how they reward people and making it more kind of performance-based. And an employee may say, well, I want 20% less salary, but I want to be able to stay, to go to Spain for 3 months, but I want a 10% bigger bonus if I hit these targets. And the whole kind of model of rewarding people is changing. We've changed our model. Our model has become much more performance-based because we want good, strong people in the business. And obviously in these current times, it means that our fixed cost base has been a little lower, which is great. And I think a lot of companies are looking at that angle, and will continue to look at that as people start throwing in some more variables like working abroad and basing themselves abroad and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see where this ends up, but we're seeing already the start of that, and that's encouraging for the market here. And as I say, I would urge anyone to look at doing that. It's a fantastic lifestyle if you can get a piece of it.
Okay, Sean. Well, I think that's there isn't much certainty going on, but that's one thing we are certain about. Let's see how the next few weeks roll up, and who knows? All we need is a little bit of good news, and the game's going to change pretty quickly. So I think everybody has to be ready to make hay when the sun starts shining again, so
Absolutely.
to speak.
And it will.
It will. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time, and
No
speak to you next time.
Take care. Cheers, Alfredo.
Right.